Here we are. We are back. Daryl, just for you. Click. The switch goes on. This is episode number 9 of the Dope Stroke podcast. Welcome back to our fantastic series of podcasts. You can find them in Apple, all your usual places. You can get them on Spotify. Dive in there. We're on YouTube as well. Myself, Chris Trott, is joined by Chris Ryan, who runs the most phenomenal golf tuition YouTube channel in the history of YouTube entertainment. Daryl Evans, entrepreneur, man himself, Gillette sponsored, looking beautiful as ever. Big D and the boys, episode 9. We're covering this week TGL, but there's a little segue coming as well, which the lads have been chatting about, that we'll leave as a cliffhanger. How you doing, boys?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. I've had a busy week. I've just got, it's obviously Black Friday at the moment, so I've just dived in and bought myself a nice little coffee machine. So I'm just figuring out all the kind of dosing and the tamping and the pucks and the steaming of the milks. Getting quite into it.
Mate, I mean, this is just basically everything I just said about episode 9 has changed completely. We're now going to cover coffee machines. What coffee machine did you get?
Well, it's a Sage, but I think over in the US they're called Breville. So it's a Sage Barista Express Impress. So it's got the coffee beans at the top. You do your dose, you tamp it, you do all your stuff. You got your little razor, and then you do your milk. I mean, so far the coffees I've made have been awful, but I think I just need to figure out how to work the thing.
So are you following?
Hang on a minute, McD. You got to let me roll.
All right.
You got to let me roll. Is this your first entry point into coffee machines?
No, I had one before. I think Nick got me one for my birthday or something years ago, and it's all right, but it wasn't that strong, and it just started to not work. I'd do some coffee, it'd come out really weak, and then it'd just break, and then the steam one didn't work, so I kind of got rid of that, and then dove into this new thing, so it's good. I like it. I love my coffee.
So, on my tabs now, La Mazzocca is open, and the tabs. I've been chatting to Pew Dog that caddies for Lucas Herbert a lot. Yeah. Our old mate Tom Davis, who's now got a fitting centre down in South Wales. Obviously, he's a big coffee guy. And basically, I had a Breville, then I had something else, DeLonghi, absolute doggy, and now I'm basically looking like getting into the game with this thing. Didn't do any Black Friday sales on it because didn't seem to be any kicking around. I'm actually going down to the Southern Hemisphere for Christmas, where I know they're big coffee people. So I will be doing a bit more research. Then I'm going to pull the pin. But I've was actually at the TaylorMade photo shoot last week. And of all the ways I thought I would get this in, I didn't think it would be this. But Nelly Corder, who I'm a huge fan of, love Nelly Corder. She's just bought a La Mazzocca as well. So she's in the game. I actually sent her a little DM when she posted it, thinking I'd get nothing back. And she's like, oh, yeah, this is, I've got it. I'm all over it. And I'm like, Nelly, legend. Knows her coffee. Anyway, Big D. Let's not leave you out, my little ray of sunshine. Coffee in Daryl's house, by the way, Bubsy, is completely pointless. It's a non-starter. You ask for a coffee, you get horrific tea and coffee, and just served like. And the last time I was there, it was unbelievable. The service was unbelievable. That was an efficient.
The service was incredible. You mean unbelievable?
That is absolutely a.
We do tap water of excellent standard. Just excuse the lime scale, but other than that, you're all set on tap water. What else do you want? It's good for your body. So, like, you know, I'm actually helping your health. So you should be saying thank you, Daryl.
He hasn't changed since his Belfry days. He still lives with he still dials up his internet in his house.
Well, I don't sleep on a mattress on the floor anymore. I've upgraded since then. I'm actually like, I'm a foot off the ground now. And that's not just my height. That's actually the mattress.
Congratulations.
And I can just about reach the countertop now to make instant coffee. So, you know, let's think positive about, you know, the castle of Evans, shall we say.
Chateau.
So, yeah.
TGL boys, McD's got enough space out back to have a little TGL unit out there, haven't you, mate?
Well, have you seen the size of the actual screen? 24 times bigger than a standard simulator screen. That is colossal. And I love some of the graphics they put out where they basically put giraffes on top of each other and all sorts of things just to demonstrate the actual size of the screen. But I don't know about you guys, but the stuff that I look at on a daily basis, very heavily connected to what the non-traditional golfer space is and the amount of money that's being driven into that particular space. I don't know. I think TGL is going to be a good thing for the game. I think it does depend on how well it's marketed and how well it comes across to the public. But I tell you, I'm pretty enthused by it. I'm quite excited to see what happens next. What about you guys?
Do we want to give a little bit of background as to what TGL is for anyone listening going, what on earth is TGL? So it stands for Tech Golf League, does it?
Technology Golf League, yeah. And it's been
What is
brought
it,
to you by, it's been brought to you by, really, it's through Tomorrow Sports. So Tomorrow Sports is a venture that Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy have set up together. And as one of those projects, TGL has been born. So TGL is made up of 6 teams, I think it is. And each team, it's like a head-to-head sort of battle that they play against each other in a bespoke-built stadium, which is in Texas. The stadium it's impressive to see the stuff that I've seen so far.
Whoa! It's not in Texas.
What did I say? Did I say Texas? Where
it's
is
Florida.
it? Shopmeister?
Florida.
Apologies. I thought it was
mate. I'll keep you honest.
I like you keep me on it. Well, we're going to get to you to tell us more about the format.
Don't be looking at me, mate. Anyway, carry on.
But essentially, the idea of it is to have a different competitive golf format that's actually played or certainly viewed to the public earlier in the week. So it's not over Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. My understanding is it's going to be held on a Monday night. So the league actually starts officially in January. Obviously some big names involved. You got Justin Rose, you got Tiger's involved, Rory's involved, Fleetwood's involved. There's a lot of high profile names involved in this, and each of the teams operates a little bit like, I suppose, an NFL team where it's a franchise. So if you look at teams like LAGC is a good example. Behind that, you've got Serena Williams and people connected with her. When you start to look at the Boston team, which is Rory McIlroy's team, you have the Fenway Sports Group are backing that. Fenway Sports Group, who don't know who they are also an owner of Liverpool Football Club. LeBron James is a shareholder in that company as well. So there's just a lot of high profile sports people and sports entities that are really supporting and backing this. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good snapshot as to what TGL is looking like. The format, Trottie, you might have a bit more knowledge on the format than me, but I believe it's a 3-man head-to-head per team. Is that right?
Yeah, you got 4 players, I think, in each team. I think it's still debated. A lot of it's still up in the air. It's still debated if Tiger is going to play or if he's going to just be like a captain. So you'll have a bench, so to say, and the player's an alternate shot. But the bits that you're the one bit, if you're really into your golf, that you're missing out on, which looks like it's very impressive. The boys are alluding to giraffes on top of each other and things like that. Basically, you hit from, I want to say it's like 30, 40 yards out from this screen, off of real turf inside, and then you blast it at the Full Swing Sim, which Full Swing boys, I mean, huge for them. They've been putting in so much work on this. So instantly on a Full Swing simulator, if anyone's aware of that, that's the company that Tiger's also involved with. As soon as your golf ball hits the screen, it dives out into the screen with obviously the launch and spin calculations in there, then goes out into a golf course that will be bespoke design for this particular format. Then from there, obviously, alternate shots. You've got these different towns and cities around the US playing each other. The connection between the players and the teams leaves a little to be desired, if I'm being honest, if I'm giving you like my absolute honest on this, because I've blown personally very hot and cold on this, but I do think it's going to be a great thing. It goes on a Monday night because I think there's Monday night sport out here and there's a gap. So in the US, they're going to fill that gap with this to try and keep, and Daryl mentioned the non-traditional golfer. I think from our experiences loosely, Daryl and I, it's very much aimed at the non-traditional golfer. But in all this, golf is such a complex game. And as these non-traditionalists come in, you do then obviously advance into the world that I think it's fair to say myself and Chris are in, that it's going to lead people to want golf lessons. It's going to lead people to, I was hitting balls next to a fella yesterday, good player, using 790s, but that was the first set he got. And this kid's like a 3-4 handicap now. And he's like, I think I'm ready to change. And it's going to lead to those sorts of entries and those sorts of questions, which are going to be fantastic. But back to the format, once you get within 50 yards, you turn around and then there's an oscillating green, again, is real turf that you play onto. So I think the dog, let's just welcome. I'm I'm going to give the goddamn dog a microphone and a set of headphones, I think. It's the only way to go. I shall carry on. You turn around, though, and you get to a point where there's an oscillating green, you hit onto the real turf, you putt on real turf. Because, again, sim golf, sometimes there's a bit of a question, isn't there, about the chipping and the putting and things like that. That can be left a little bit to be desired. But as tech moves on, I'm sure that'll be great. The arena will be quite small. I think you're going to get 40, 50 people. Then there's going to be the ability to, for the teams and the captain, because I said 4-3 play, to dive in there and maybe change the rules a little bit, throw down a hammer, which is a high stakes bet, and things like that. So, there could be some banter. All those players are going to be mic'd up, which will be great as long as they'll come with high energy. The problem you have is that some of these players are low key. So to expect them to give the social media hype that you see from a Bryson, who's phenomenal at it, you obviously get it from these big social media channels. You might not get that from some of these players because they are ultimately entertainers for their skills on a golf course. So that could be an issue. But I believe there's going to be a few influencers, per se, whatever takes your flavor, thrown in, certainly at the team level. Whether that's your jam or not remains to be contested.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think they play 9 holes, and they choose 3 out of the 4, and it's alternate shots. So someone hits tee shot, someone hits the second shot, someone hits the putt. They play 9 holes. If you win a hole for your team, you get a point. And then after 9 holes, they play 6 holes 2-on-2. So it'll be one from one team plays, one from the other team. They play 2 holes. Then the other 2 step in, play 2 holes. The other 2 step in, play 2 holes. So it's 16 holes. However many holes you've won, you either win the match, or if it's a draw, it goes to what they call extra holes, which is basically a nearest the pin. But you have to get 2 nearest to win. So, like, if I'm on a team...
Two of the three. 2 of the 3
to win, yeah. So, I think, like you were saying, Trottie, I think having them mic'd up is good, but my concern is that, like you said, they're not in that space enough to carry it. I don't know whether there's going to be like an MC or whether there's going to be someone presenting it, because that role, you could argue, is going to be equally as important as the guys competing.
So again, I don't know what's out in the public and what's not. Obviously, that format is out, as you found it. Fantastic. There is going to be an MC. I thought that might be someone who is a traditional golf voice, but I don't think it's going to be. Last I heard, and again, Daryl might know more, it's going to be one of these big US either sports announcers or big one connected to the TV network that's covering it, which, to your point, is a huge role, because if the players come in and they're not into it, which the players will start into it, but when they realize that, and we had Lee Crumbleholm on here last week or 2 weeks ago, when they realize you've got to be in a different mindset to hit a perfect golf shot versus YouTube entertainment, which is something I struggle massively to separate, that's going to be, I mean, it's going to just be balls to the wall, boys. Let's get this one at that stage, because none of them are going to want to lose.
But I think it's quite interesting to see. This is going to be a whole season long. This is so I'm just checking it out here now. Now, the season includes 15 regular season matches, followed by a postseason leading to the final series at the end. So I think the first one, I'm just quite interested to see how fan behavior will change and evolve over the course of the season, because you do need that guy or that MC to narrate really well from get-go. Like, it's almost like those first 2 or 3 are going to be so important to make sure that there's momentum going into the rest of the season. So it's almost like they haven't really got any room to make a mistake. They've got to learn quick to a degree to get it right.
The hard part here as well, sorry to interject, but now you're setting me going. You're setting me going here.
Oh,
the hard part is that the PGA Tour are behind this. Fantastic, great establishment. Well done, PGA Tour. But we all know that social media wise, to get any traction from it and any coverage that goes out, will all have to be cleared by them. So if there's anyone there outside of this main broadcaster, for example, I think it was New York, I met a couple of, or might be 3 Canadian lads. It might be Atlanta, it might be New York. They're doing all the social media for them. Really good lads. I met them at my Adidas event up in Canada. But the bottom line is, they're going to have to clear everything with the PGA Tour to get it out. So if something happens there and then, social media, as we all know, is instant. I can snap this right now, bang it out, boom, off you go, and we're interacting. again, it's the PGA Tour's way of trying to battle against or with, not with, definitely not, but to capture these moments. But the ball's already jumped the gate. I mean, Bryson's down the line, hitting balls over his house. Anyone in the golf industry, if you weren't, anyone in sports industry, if you weren't captivated by that, I was rooting for the guy. I thought that was awesome. So, yeah, here we are talking about TGL. Bryson's the ultimate entertainer, lads. And he's not in this, is he? He's not in it.
Did you see, talking about the PGA Tour and their kind of policy around social media, it was one of the Phoenix Opens, the Waste Management, a couple of years ago. And I can't remember who it was. I can picture him, took his shirt off. Who was that?
Harry Higgs.
Harry Higgs, right? Holds a putt on 16, then runs around, takes his shirt off, right? So the PGA Tour obviously clipped that up, stuck it on Instagram, stuck it on TikTok, stuck it on Twitter, pulled loads of views in, right? Obviously using that clip to leverage, eyes on them. Great. And then find him. And he's like, well, hang on. He's like, what do you want? Do you want us to do that kind of stuff so you can get the views? Or do you not want us to do that? I mean, it's a bit of a mixed message there, isn't it? We'll use that clip to draw the eyeballs in and then fine you for doing it. Yeah. They need to make a call whether they want to go down that route or not.
It was actually it was Joel Damon, wasn't it? It was swinging. Yeah. Higgs just did the Ravanelli celebration.
Yeah.
I mean, and then obviously this bang him on scratch, which then they go and buy, which is now Pro Shop Holdings or whatever it is, ran by Chad Munn and company up here in LA, and it's just Dan Rapp is in with that. I love Dan Rapp. Chad's a nice guy. Dan's awesome covering golf, but it's now the vault of the PGA Tour has been uncovered. I mean, Dan Rappaport, bless him, used to be with Foreplay. He's just a good journalist. He wants to cover golf. So the reason he goes with Chad, and Chad does a fantastic job here too, is because now they got access to all this stuff. But I don't see Dan pumping it out as often as Dan would want to. Knowing Dan the way I know him, and it's not like we're best mates, but I've seen him work, he'd want to be on that every single day. So again, it seems like it's being drip fed. That is a major worry because the guys running this, and again, the people that I know behind TGL, let's not get into the team level yet, let's stay on the main thing. They're all just the usual faces that have been in the golf industry for the last 20 years that are running the production side of this stuff. Do they really know how to do things differently? I don't know. And then it spins over to create a classic. Do they know how to do things differently? I don't know. I know that they wanted Grant Horvat in this whole thing. Grant's a masterclass when it comes to the algorithm. I mean, you have to bow down and give the guy respect as to what he's created. But he's gone out and done this whole Live Phil Mickelson match thing that he announced last week. So TGL, no joke, all the players, all this, but Grant's a monster when it comes to content, and he's just got Big Phil involved with him as well. Now management groups are all like tying in together. They're all onto this. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. I think the best are getting better when it comes to social media. I think Rick Shields is seeing that as well. He's massively pumping it. Pete's really at the forefront of it. Those two English guys do a fantastic job. And then, of course, you come down a level or two, and you've got yourself and myself here, but Bubsy, that are very much in our lane. And you start to question, well, should we be doing this and doing that? Or is the equipment and the teaching our lane, and that's where we stay? It's interesting because I always think when it comes back to it, if you're doing this with partners, which, let's face it, making social media content is an expensive game to be in, you do need to have some ability to sell so that you can partner up to move forward with your brands, to give some value. Pete and Rick are maybe so big that they don't need that. I mean, Grant right now, momentum's with him. But again, this TGL thing, bringing it back to subject, it does feel like a way the PGA Tour is trying to capture onto that in order to make sure they can have some control. And I just think that social media is not a place of control.
No. And I want to kind of add to that through the lens of, I guess, the commercial lens and how that could actually look, because I think it's great that these formats are coming to life, and I think it's exciting. I'm definitely interested to see how it all works out, but I'm a bit more anti-establishment than most, I suppose. So I'm always quite happy to be a bit more disruptive. But with that in mind, it's great that they're going to televise TGL during prime time hours in the States. I think that's great, but it's really going to be on the Golf Channel. So is this going to alienate potentially quite a lot of the traditional golfers straight out the gate. So the guys that are watching that, Thursday to Sunday PJ Tour event, and they look at this and go, "Oh, this is going to be too gimmicky for me. I'm not even going to bother wasting my time." So I think there's that. That's I wouldn't call it a concern, but it's certainly something of note. And then the other part is, how are you actually going to get that other audience onto the Golf Channel in the first place, even if it is in prime time hours? So I don't think that's. Yeah, I know what you're going to say, but I just don't think that it's that. It's not as easy to solve that problem as you might think. It's great that it's prime time. I think that's probably a key pull. But you then need to, as you're pointing out, Trotter, you've got to leverage other people that command, not just have, but command a non-traditional audience. And you need them to be driving people to the Golf Channel. Those people. So if that's a Grant Horvat, if it's a you, if it's a somebody else, a Rick Shields, whatever it needs to be, if those guys who have that community can get people onto the Golf Channel during prime time, that's going to give them every reason to be successful. However, like you say, it can't be planned. It's got to be much more. The structure's much more fluid. It's got to be driven by the creators. It's got to be driven by the creative people. It can't be driven by an organization. And that would be my take on that if they're going to make this a commercial opportunity. Now, on the other hand, we've already listed out some of the names that are behind this. Steph Curry, Serena Williams, a whole bunch of other high-profile athletes from other sports. I think if they've got a vested interest in seeing this be successful, we should be tapping into those backgrounds as well. How well the PGA Tour do with that, I don't know. We're going to have to wait till January to find out. But I do think there's got to be multiple drivers away from people that are not connected to the board level of the PGA Tour, people that are outside of the game that are driving people towards that Monday Night League.
I think my biggest concern with it is that this first year, there's going to be some eyeballs on it, right? That first one, when it goes live, people are going to be watching. But you look at the list of names, I mean, it's basically everybody you'd want to be involved is involved, the biggest names on the PGA Tour. But if I'm interested to know what the PGA Tours or what the players' expectations of this is, because let's say it runs for, however many events, 13, 14, 15 events, and you have got players that can't carry it, some less than ideal personalities, people start to lose interest. Then you've got these big players who've got massive commitments in terms of playing golf around the world, focusing on majors. And then next season, you've got to turn around to them and say, look, we need you to 15 events. Are you going to get people like Justin Thomas, people like Rory McIlroy starting to go, this is just becoming a bit of a burden on my time, really. I don't want to be doing this every Monday night. That's my worry. And so the first few episodes, they've got to go big. They've got to get some viewership. They've got to get people engaged. And I'm not 100% sure whether that's sustainable over coming years.
It's very fair, but, and Daryl, I'm going to segue to you here. This is a new business, and any new business that starts, what I'm learning, you can try all you like to have a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, but you just don't know. And I think if we try to turn this a little bit more positive, because we've hammered the things that we're worried about, this is also phenomenal. It really is. If we do think about it, this is the new age. This is your kid who goes to the range, who has been exposed to a launch monitor. He's played golf on the computer. He's watched Holy Moly. Do you guys have Holy Moly in the UK? Steph Curry's so good. Holy Moly is like the ultimate mini putt series on TV, and they get random folks. And 2 mates of mine have been on it already, and they have to wear like spaceman suits and all this and complete various challenges. My son loves it. And they get these 2 CBS or whatever analysts on it who wear these green jackets taking the piss, and they're comedians. It's brilliant. The commentary's brilliant. It's awesome. And I watched my kids watch it, stoked about it. And then I'm like, I can get behind this. I like it. So if they get that vibe, but that's just normal dudes out there, like 12 handicappers, the odd scrubbed up tour pro comes on there, the odd social media influencer, maybe a fireman, whoever. But it's great. It's phenomenal. I'm going to send you some clips later.
A few episodes ago, you said you didn't watch any PGA Tour golf, but you do watch hackers on mini golf.
100%. What's that? Tell you that, and that's true.
Yeah.
But I will say, mate, I will watch, just to reiterate that, so people know. I watch Ryder Cup and I'll watch the odd major. And I like LA, and I watch Dubai if I'm up on Wentworth and things like that. But the point is, this is where it's going, and
yeah,
I think it's brilliant what it's getting on it. And I think, to segue into Daryl here, new business, you don't know with a new business how long it's going to last, but the people behind it have got the passion to make it work. So it should work, right?
I think it should work. But even when Live got created, and I was around for quite a lot of it that first year, massive amounts of money, very, very smart, hardworking people behind many facets of that business, but still made a lot of startup mistakes. And I think you should expect the same here. But the most important thing is that they're actually starting, because you can wait for perfection all you like, but no matter what, as you start a business, there is going to be many times you'll have to pivot, change direction, make a different decision than what you thought you had to make in order to make something successful. It's no different really to the Dope Stroke podcast show. We've definitely made a few mistakes. I'm sure we'll make many more. But the fact is, if you're not making mistakes, you're not moving forward anyway. So the idea is just to keep learning from the lessons that you experience through failure, and adapt and modify accordingly. But there's no question for me that what TGL is trying to represent and what it is trying to do, I think it's pretty clear. Modern technology, different audience group. Great. That's a good start. Now you can build a story. Now you can build a brand. Now you can build something around that. And things like that take a long time. Look at the story of Nike by itself. I mean, it took 13 years before it moved from Blue Ribbon to Nike. It's a long time. I think it was 13 years. It was a number of years anyway. So you only have to look at these different scenarios around the world. When Adidas was created with Adolf Dassler, that was not an overnight success either. Like many brands, you have to think about other companies like, I think it's Walmart. Did they start out as like a washing powder company or something? There's so many variations of where a company starts to where it ends up before it becomes successful. But TGL just happens to have a massive base, high influential people in the business end of sport. It's got every chance of being successful. And like I said earlier, I'm excited about it. I just hope that they give it the justice that it deserves through the broadcast. And to your point earlier, Trotty, how they can bring that out personality-wise will ultimately come to define what TGL becomes. Because what you don't want it to be is a digital PGA. It needs to be a different product.
Well, we've had a little bit of involvement, haven't we, with Los Angeles Golf Club and what they're trying to do locally in the community. It's cool. It's impressive. And obviously, you mentioned Serena's got the involvement in that. She's from LA, so they're trying to bring golf, make it more accessible to people in LA that maybe haven't played golf before. It's got the LA vibe to it. It's got a different feel to it. It's good. I mean, they're trying for sure. Where it goes, they'll figure it out. They're smart people. I trust that they will.
Right. I think what we need to do before it starts, we need to have a team each.
Okay. Well, who's your player in your team? Is that what you're going to go for?
No, you need a team to back. So you've got Atlanta, you've got Boston, Jupiter, LA, New York, and then Bay Area. Got Dazzler, you can go first. You've got to pick your team. You cannot change now. This is it. You're going to have to buy a mug with the team on. You're going to have to buy a hat. You're going to have to go whole shebang. You're going to have to go pointy finger, whatever that is, foam finger, sitting in the crowd, pushing for your team.
Yeah.
Who do you want?
I want to go for Jupiter Lynx.
So that's Tiger Woods, Max Homer, Tom Kim, Kevin Kisner.
Yes.
Okay. Trotty?
Well, I'm close enough to them, and I like black, and they wear black, so LAGC.
So that is Colin Morikawa, Tommy Fleetwood, Justin Rose, Sahith Theegala. Well, I'm going to have to go Boston Common then. So that's Rory, Adam Scott, Keegan Bradley, Hideki Matsuyama. So there's our teams, boys.
So on this... Go ahead.
Bubs, why did you pick that team?
Rory.
Right, okay. Interesting.
That influence. He is. So you're player orientated, not. See, I'm location orientated.
Yeah, but these are all US based, and I've got no real attachment to anywhere US based, really. Do you know what? We spoke about it a few times, but I'm just a big Rory fan. There is very, very few tournaments where he plays that I'm not rooting for him to win. The only time is maybe if Tiger's in the field, but he's kind of gone past it now. So I'm just a big Rory fan. I just think everything he does is class. So I'm a big fan of Rory.
Just,
so he's my pick.
I'm just going back through the weeks and have a look at the notes here.
Yeah, I know what you're going to pull out.
Yeah, you know exactly what I'm going to pull out. So I'm a big Rory fan. Oh, you had him at number 3. Fair dues.
Yeah,
number 3.
And the world rankings.
Yeah.
I can be a Rory fan and look at this without bias or judgment. I can look at it from a neutral.
I mean, if I'm a Rory fan, then he's number 1, though. I mean, if I'm a Rory fan, aren't I? You're either all in, aren't you, or you're not.
Well, I thought you were a Tommy Fleetwood fan, and he's in. He's in LA Golf Club.
He's
yeah.
LAGC. Yeah. Rumor is that Paul Waring's making that team. By the way, he's reserved.
Hey, he's on the guest. 100%.
Well, there's one team where there's no one being announced yet.
Was that the Bay?
Bay Area, yeah. There's a team there because it's got the owners. That's Steph Curry's team, but there's no players been announced.
Yeah, it was the most recent team, wasn't it?
Oh, was it?
Waring's getting a spot for sure.
There you go. Yeah,
Waring,
Trotty.
Grant Horvat, Waring, Rick Shields, and Peter Finch.
There you go.
They'd crush it. They would absolutely crush it. So obviously in all this, there's a time window that they have to play this whole thing in. Is it 2 hours?
They reckon it's going to take 2 hours, but there is a shot clock.
So that's how they're going to keep it on point.
Yeah.
I like that.
Because it's televised live, right? So I guess keeping it to a specific time is essential.
100%. But I mean, this brings you, and it's amazing how the golf that we watch on the box tries to follow box as a TV for anyone who's under the age of flipping 22. Basically, yeah. Basically, you wonder how these broadcasts run everything on time. And I think it's a nice segue into our second section of the podcast, which is to cover pace of play. I know you lads have got some stats for me on the European Tour. I know our boy Lloyd has pulled a few up here. But pace of play and the main tour, some rule changes, McD, out there, I believe.
Yeah, still trying to get to grips with a few of them, to be honest. But yeah, there has been a few rule changes on the European Tour about pace of play. It's kind of a big talking point across all the tours. I think the PJ Tour gets hammered for it quite a lot as well. But yeah, obviously, once Denny's finished his contribution to this conversation, that's just for those who are listening. That's Trotty's dog. He loves a guest appearance, doesn't he?
Very mouthy,
just like his owner.
Yeah.
So yeah, pace of play has obviously become more and more of a talking point. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. But there's new rules in play on the European Tour. I need to get my understanding on that a little bit more dialed in. But there's now going to be penalty shots given for slow play once you reach certain amounts of time on the clock. So the way that the fine system typically works, it's all about the volume of times you've been on the clock. So you don't just get a fine for being on the clock for that round. You have to be on the clock 6 times over a given period of time before you then get a fine. But now they'll start to introduce different types, or it won't be different types. It'll be a penalty shots every time there's a certain breach. But what that looks like, it's still yet to be determined. But I know it's being published in the Player's Handbook as we speak. But with that in mind, and our boy Lloyd has definitely pulled out some data. But the last time a individual person was penalized a shot on the PJ Tour was 2011. Is that right? So the other PJ Tour penalty for slow play came during the 2011 Zurich Classic. Miguel Angel Carballo and Brian Campbell were both penalized 1 shot on the 14th hole. Carballo initially went over his allotted time on the 12th hole before Campbell followed suit 2 holes later. So that's actually not on an individual basis, and the Zurich Classic is a pairs event, and those guys got fined penalty shots back then. So it goes to show how infrequent it is where anybody even gets a penalty shot. But as a question to I suppose you, Trotty, related to the PGA Tour, do you think penalty shots will actually drive players to speed up play? Because it's pretty clear that fines themselves probably don't. Do you think that's going to be a key driver of improving speed of play?
Yeah, because providing they're in contention. Obviously, golf's such an emotional game, right? It depends where your head's at. If you're in contention, you ain't going to want any penalty shots. But if you're missing the cut and you don't care, then you don't. Mind you, probably want to be out of there. But if you're on the cut mark, it could cause some rage. But I think penalty shots is going to have more impact. I think it's more important to these boys for sure. The score is what they're playing for, 100%.
But do you think that when you're starting to compare eras to a degree where somebody from years ago won a particular event and now all of a sudden there's going to be a penalty shot for slow play and that might cost that person that event, are we really comparing apples with apples at that time, or do you not think that that's relevant?
Well, I think the world's changed, hasn't it? And we have to keep things on point. And to get there quickly, there's going to be a shot clock at some point in golf, 100%. I played an event this year. I haven't played golf properly for 15 years. And when I say properly, I mean something that's not a club event. And I actually played, it would be a county event in the UK. So I played in a qualifier to get into an event. And it was pointless because I wasn't available for when the actual event was. But I decided, I'm going to play this thing anyway. And I hadn't played a lot of golf and I wasn't playing very well. And first 9 holes, we were first out off for 10. And we played the first 9 holes very quickly because I was playing with a mate of mine who's a quick player anyway, 3 of us. Boom, done. Stood on the first tee for a long time waiting for the first group. And then the back 9 proceeded to take us 2.5 hours. And I was like, oh my God, I'm never doing this again. Done. And that it's not the lack of desire to want to play in USGA events and to aspire to do that at this stage of life. It's definitely not that. I won't be spending 5.5 hours on a golf course.
So having played a lot of golf with you anyway, Trotmeister, you're not exactly the quickest of players anyway.
Which I think is probably why I'm these days a former shadow of myself, because I play quickly now. I don't tend to take very long. And I think in the past, you're right, when I cared, I took a long time. I don't now. I play
I just
pretty
think
quick
of the amount of time you used to back off on a shot because you could hear a butterfly land on a flower 400 yards away and then proceed to F and blind at that particular butterfly. I mean, those are the days, Trotmeister.
I can tell you that all butterflies are safe these days. You can do what they want.
Really.
So, here's the issue I have with slow play. Right, it's obviously an issue because it's just something that's not going away. It's been spoken about for years. So, answer this really quickly: is 2 minutes too long to hit a golf shot?
Yes.
No.
So Daryl says yes. Says no. But here's the issue I have. Right, if you're playing the Masters and you step onto the second tee, 2 minutes is too long to hit that shot, right? But Tiger's chip in from the back of 16 took him 2 minutes. That shot took that long because of the difficulty of the shot, the magnitude of the situation, the way the tournament was unfolding. I don't think you can have a shot clock for a shot because I think there's too many variables that go into that. So then do you look at it as a total round time, or do you look at it as a accumulation of shots and divide it by how many number of shots? You see what I'm saying? It's not like if you give Tiger 30 seconds to hit that shot, he probably doesn't hold it and we lose that incredible moment that's possibly the best golf shot that's ever happened.
So it's funny you say that, actually. So in snooker, they got different types of rankings across the board. So if you ever go onto the website, which you may not ever feel the need to look at the snooker rankings, but if you do, on one of those, which is always on the homepage or near enough the homepage, they actually have what they call the queue time, average queue time. So it's how long it takes for that player, whatever that person's average time is to hit a shot. And you could do that in golf. It's ultimately just your average time to hit a golf shot over the course of a season. And it's no surprise in the snooker world that Ronnie O'Sullivan typically leads that particular ranking. Obviously, one of the greatest snooker players of all time, but also known to be the quickest. And there's every reason to think that you could put that into the golfing landscape. And maybe that I'm not sure how you could really message that out there, but I think it's quite a cool message to demonstrate who are actually the quickest players, who are the slowest players, but it's over an average, knowing full well, like you said, that on the 16th at Augusta, that was a difficult shot. Yeah, I can see that taking a couple of minutes to get everything ready to go before you're ready to execute. Whereas
the quickest players are generally the most entertaining. Lee Trevino,
yes.
John Daly. You're talking about Ronnie O'Sullivan in snooker, which is a form of pool for anyone in the US, and snooker players will be offended that I've said that, but it is basically. So
Yeah,
anyone who's quick is usually entertaining.
Yeah.
Is 2 minutes too long to take a golf shot? Yes. But the problem is, and this is what I found when I played much more serious golf than I do now, you walk onto the tee of a par 3. And I honestly, in the end, I used to hate this. I have the honor. Let's say I birdied the hole prior, or I'm on the tee. I'm first on a par 3 in a tournament. I hate that. I need time to figure out, carry over a trap. Where's the flag? What's the green doing up there? Which side do I need to come in from? What is it to go long? What's the elevation change? All this stuff takes time. What's the wind doing? Right. What shot shape? Okay, it's between 6 and 7. Well, if I hit the 7, I've got to draw it. You've done a minute and a half by then.
Hang on.
But
Lee Crumbleow's on the phone. He says you're thinking too much here,
But you're not thinking too much. If you're playing proper golf and then you're at elevation, so then you got to change that because you're hitting off a you know what I mean? It all takes time.
But you knew the rule, didn't you?
I did know the freaking rule, and he knew the rule as well.
There's a little inside joke there, isn't there, Trollmeister? Yeah,
there is.
I'm going to introduce. I haven't run this past you yet, Trotty. I've run it past Daryl. I'm going to introduce a new segment on this podcast. I'm going to call it Dope AI, where basically I'm going to ask AI based on the topics that we're discussing. And the hope is that if people like this segment, they can email in. Then we can just basically take a step back and we can just get AI to run this podcast for us. So I said, slow play is an issue in professional golf. Give me 5 ways that it can be improved. Right, so I'll quickly run through them and then you can let me know whether you think they're good. It says harsher penalties for slow play. That's number 1, right? Number 2 is streamlined monitoring by officials. Increase the number of rules officials dedicated to monitoring pace of play. Adjusting tee limits. Set a firm maximum round time, and then you've got to be completed within that. Or encourage players to streamline their pre-shot routine. Or number 5, technology integration. Utilize wearable on-course technology to provide real-time feedback on pace, similar to shot tracking. Right, what do you think of that?
A couple of those have already been trialed, I think, or tested anyway. Referees and all that for sure. I think harsher penalties would definitely make a difference. I agree with that. And I'm actually not against bringing in technology, whether people are using rangefinders or GPS watch type stuff. I'm all for that as well. I don't see that being a major issue because the books are so accurate and so good anyway. All that's happening with the technology is just speeding up the end result where you're going to know what the number is.
The Sky Caddy's made me quicker for sure. The fact that you've got a yardage book that's calculating the numbers so you don't have to do the maths for 100% is way better. Yeah. But I do think in all this, so yeah, I'd embrace tech. And I also think for the AMs that aren't playing for anything, I think, I think being quicker is going to come into the game. It has to. I think the kids don't. My son plays at rocket speed. If when we were kids, then you used to be the slowest player because you were a kid and you didn't know what you were doing. He plays like lightning quick.
What do you think, though? Just thinking about the speed of play variable here, with the way that technology has altered and advanced over the course of the last, let's be honest, 20 years, let's say, there's been some big gains in yardage, and like the bulk of the PGA Tour now are all driving at over 300 yards, whereas 20 years ago it might have been 1 or 2 people, and the way that they've had to then lengthen golf courses over the years, that walking time adds up as well. I almost feel like it would be quite interesting to see an analysis of walking time today versus walking time 20 years ago. But equally, that has to have an impact on the pace of play from a viewing experience, right? Even if the shot time to hit a shot hasn't changed, that by itself is going to lengthen the time it takes to play a round of golf. What do you guys think about that? What do you think, Chris? As in Bugs?
I'm conscious to know who's bothered about pace of play, because it's never once entered my mind when I watch golf. You know, when I'm watching, let's say, the Masters, because there's obviously a load of players in the field who I'm interested in watching it. As long as it's edited well, it'll just flip between player to player. It's never been something I've had an issue with. Even when I go to watch a golf tournament, it doesn't. Is it more the players that are having the issue with it? Because as a spectator, you know, when I'm watching golf, I'm not watching, you know, a TikTok feed where I want everything to be, you know, 5 seconds and on to the next one. I don't mind sitting there and watching it and dipping in and out. So, I mean, do you watch golf and feel it's slow, or is that just me that doesn't?
I'm not sure if I watch it because it's slow, but I definitely think the way that it's filmed never really goes to another person quick enough. But I don't think that that's a slow play issue. No. I just think it's a lack of broadcasting enough shots, which they could easily broadcast more. But I think it's a valid point. But then equally, and Trottie, you might know the answer to this, so you could probably fill in some gaps. But my understanding in baseball in the US is they've added a shot clock to that sport,
which the traditionalists
had
hated.
A dramatic difference.
Yeah, but mate, baseball games would go on for hours. So the traditionalists hated it, but now they've got the shot clock in, and I believe it's gone down really well. All that happened is the boys went they do like spring training where they go to Arizona and they just changed their pre-shot routine. Now there was a bit of controversy that even I heard as a very loose baseball watcher, and basically they just adjusted. Which in golf, if you threw a shot clock in, people would just adjust. I don't love it, but I think it's where we're going. I think your comment about walking is complete bollocks as well. I mean, if
why though? If a golf course is like 1,000 yards longer, though, that's definitely going to add time. It has to.
I sort of think I don't like the idea of a shot clock because I just think every shot is so unique. What I would potentially like, and this might take a lot of policing and a lot of effort, a lot of bodies on the ground, but you almost have like a ref who's going to monitor how long it takes each player to hit a shot, and they just record that. And if they are hitting what's deemed to be a more difficult shot, they might get an extra 15, 20 seconds. And then over the course of the season, they start to publish these times, you know, and then they can start to build an idea of what's the average. And then it's like, look, after a run of 6 events, if your average goes over this time, there's a penalty, whether it's a fine or it's a penalty. Therefore, you can take a little longer on certain shots that are more difficult, and you can hit the tee shot on 4, which is just a bash with the driver, much quicker.
But on the tour, all that happens. Like, they have a player time ranking. They measure each shot in terms of time. The thing is, which a psychologist would probably hate here, is you're deeming certain shots to be more important than others.
Well, no, but I just think on some shots, there's more information that you need to gather. You know, if I'm playing, you know, TPC Sawgrass, I'm a PGA Tour player, and it's my 12th year back there, I kind of know I'm going to hit driver off whatever tee. But if I've hit it long left and I'm on the downslope of a bunker and the pin's cut on a slope and I've got to figure out, you know, do I go 1 foot in, 1 foot out? Have I got to pitch it all the way, land it short? That's a unique shot that I do need a bit more time to gather the information. As soon as I've basically absorbed everything and I've chosen the shot I'm going to hit, then that should take no longer time. But I do think there are some shots which require a little bit more planning.
I don't know. I think we need to think about what our conclusion is on this, because I'm miles away. I mean, a shot clock, I think that's where it's going. You're saying maybe a round clock you like, ultimately?
I would maybe do it over a stretch of 3 to 4 events and look at an average for those 3 to 4 events. I mean, yeah, that's how I would potentially look at it. But I mean, I don't know the finer details of that. I just think a shot clock is, I don't know, I worry that you are going to potentially miss out on some of these incredible moments that do take a little bit more time to happen.
I think starting point for me, I think all of those things are all relevant. But I think just get the technology in play. Let's get GPS. Let's get rangefinders in play. Let's start with that and let's see what a difference that makes, and then deal with the second part later. That's probably where I'd go.
It's kind of fair enough.
I do think that all elements should be on the table, but a bit like, you know, the Dyson, as in James Dyson and his vacuum cleaner. You know, he made 5,000 prototypes before he launched the very first one, but every prototype would only be one thing changed, so he could understand what an impact that would have on the product. And I think that's what you have to do here. It's not like VAR in football, where they basically put everything on the table at the same time. I think just do things one at a time, and then you can actually make some proper measurements. So for me, technology first.
Isn't your training ground TGL? If this TGL thing works at speed, they're going to incorporate a lot of this into the main tour. They have to. And on that, by the way, do you know, I was sat here thinking, I'm sure Shane Lowry was with Boston. So Boston is Keegan Bradley, McIlroy, Scott, Hideki. But also the Bay Area, it has announced it's Ludwig Aberg, Wyndham Clark, Minwoo Lee, and Shane Lowry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm just fact-checking. I'm fact-checking checkers.
I thought Shields was
not just because Lloyd put it in the chat.
Well, it is, but then it is. So
give Lloyd the
Lloyd's
credit. Come on.
No, because then I googled the Boston team, you twat, to check that was going on as well. Because I thought his facts were wrong, actually. So there you go. Have we had anyone join us for these legendary beer moments?
This last week, the answer to that question is no. We've had quite a few emails saying, well done, guys, like positive emails in that sense, but nothing related to beers, which is disappointing. So we need some beer stories to keep that thread alive, I think, and we'll see how we pivot from that in season 1 of the Dope Stroke podcast show. But I do know that I was at my children's school Christmas fair thing on Sunday, which was at the school. And the claustrophobia for me, with 3,000 screaming children, it seemed, was enough for me to have a pint at the school. So that's making my story for the day.
You had a beer watching a children's play.
Damn right I was. Yeah.
Was it? Did you have to sneak it into a soft drinks bottle?
No, they were selling it on site, and I thought to myself, should I have 2? Should I have 1? And I just sucked it up and got 1 Peroni. Not exactly a stellar beer, but it was one that was for sale, and I decided that this seemed like a good moment to take the edge off, which it duly did. So I was.
What did they charge you?
I think it was £3.20. All goes to a good cause. All to the school. Chris.
Just while we're talking about school plays, I had the proud moment the other day where my boys came home with a letter each for the nativity play, which is towards the end of Christmas. And the letter said, "Dear parent, your child Grayson is going to be a carrot, and your son Lawson is going to be a baked bean."
Jesus Christ.
It's a bit different to being in the Boston team, isn't it?
I mean, what are we doing? Well, I think on that bombshell, we'll leave you to it.
I'll report back.
Yeah.
So, Daryl, what's the email address for the Dope Stroke?
hello@dopestroke.com. So please leave your anything you want to tell us, leave it there for us. Tell us what you want us to talk about. Tell us anything about the show that you like, that you don't like, and definitely give us some stories about beer, because we're a big fan of beer on this show. So please,
I want to hear the greatest nativity role anyone's had, because I think that carrot and bean might be freaking topping it.
Not any bean, a baked bean.
Jesus Christ.
Well, if anyone does have a story about the nativity and being a bean or another type of vegetable, then please let us know, because Trotty will be super interested, because he has a particular fondness for onions. And if any of your children have been an onion, we would love to know what that's like, and actually if they have any onions at all. But other than that, I think that wraps it up for another show. So feel free to follow us on all the usual platforms, on Apple and Spotify, and also you'll find us on YouTube and Instagram. So thank you very much, guys, and I'll see you next week.